dad twin of Mad Resilience Films. My short film is called Limited, and I was the writer, director, producer, and editor. I'm based in Toronto, born and raised. So the Open World Toronto Film Festival is run by Sabine and Steve, and we're really good friends. I'm actually part of the team. I'm one of the judges. And I premiered one of my French films 3 years ago called Pardonnez-moi mon père. And since then, I've been attending, and it's an honor to be one of the coordinators on the festival. Most of my writing is rooted in dysfunctional family drama. And so I wanted to tell a story that's about lack of closure, denial, and regret. And it's about a mother and son who has an abusive emotional relationship, and I wanted to put that on the forefront and bring a lot of questions at the end. So we have two leads there. So the first is Nicholas and Pedro Silman. He's a new actor who I met when we cast another short film called Oksana and Victor earlier this year. And there was over 500 people that came out to audition for that or apply for that. And we just knew instantly that he had something in him, even though that was his very first film. And after Oksana and Victor, we shot this shortly after, and so this was written specifically for him, because I knew, hey, I know this guy can actually do something else that's darker than when we would work with him in Oksana and Victor. And so that way, that's how I cast Nicholas. Suzanne Prattley, I knew her name, and I've seen her face before, but I had never worked with her before. I've never seen any of her work. And she was one who auditioned for Limited when we put out a casting call. And she just blew the monologue out of the water, and we just knew instantly, like, hey, she can act, but she can bring so much more to this character than what we originally intended, and she brought so much more to it. So, and the two of them have amazing chemistry as mother and son. We've done over 35 short films, theater productions, and web series, and I've basically been the writer and director for almost all of them, and I've produced some of them as well. We're currently in post-production on 2 short films, and we're going to be doing a micro-short in January, as well as I'm working on a feature in the writing stage right now. For this one, we're going through the festival circuit, so we're going to be premiering in January, and it usually has about a year to year and a half run, and then we'll see what happens from there. It could be either online, or maybe we'll put it on, if we get distribution, that'd be a great thing. We'll see what happens. So we've been into over 150 film festivals with our short films. I mean, we've done quite a lot of short films over the years, and 150 and counting. Though at Mad Resilience Films, we produce about 3 or 4 shorts a year, but because we're doing a feature next, we might be focusing on that in the next year. And I'm thinking of going back into theater as well. So my composer, Ian Gardner, and I are thinking of doing another musical. It's been 7 years since we've done one, and so that's going to be a new adventure for us.
My name is Shanti Dore, and my short film was screened as part of the local support in the festival. My film is called The Story Ma Never Told. I created and produced this short film and acted as well in it. I attended last year as an audience member, and this is the first year that a film of mine has been screened here. It was fabulous. I felt that the audience was very receptive. The story is a very difficult story, and they were very sensitive, and the questions were, I felt, supportive. The comments were supportive, the questions were really heartfelt, and it was wonderful to get a chance to share it with this audience and to really feel appreciated for the work that I did. The story is a docudrama. It's based on a true story of my mother, who is an immigrant to Canada. She left Trinidad and the country Trinidad and Tobago, and she came here with my father in 1958, and they left their 2 children, 2 daughters that they had in Trinidad with family, and when they came to Canada, one of their daughters tragically died in an accident. This is a sister that I never knew, and I felt that it was really important to capture this story and document the history of my family. And it wasn't something that my mother ever talked about, so I feel that it was really important to me to acknowledge what happened, and I think in the process it was the first time my mom ever got a chance to really talk about the details. This is my first short film, so it is something that I'm continuing with. I like the genre of docudrama, and I'm considering working on dramas based on true stories. Making a personal film is really difficult because it's something that your feelings are immersed. It's a story that is close to you. That when you talk about it, you feel every nuance of the story. Because it was the story of my mother as well, it's something that I know that has been with her since the time she lost my sister. The pain never goes away. So it was always being respectful of her, and not pushing her too much to answer questions or to give me details on what happened, and just to give her time in between to process what she talked about, because like I said, it was really, I believe, one of the first times she really spoke about the story in such detail. So just giving her the space to be able to continue talking about it was really important, finding that balance between having those feelings, judging up all those emotions, and then being able to comfort her and be there for her as well was an important part of it. It was really great to be able to tell that story while she's still alive. She's going to be 86 on November 22nd, so it was great that she could see. I felt like it came full circle, that she was able to share that with the world. Well, I just love to thank Sabine and her team for this opportunity to to support my film and let it be screened at the festival. I think that it's just been an honor to be part of this, and I've known Sabine for years, and she's an incredible woman and someone that I've really grown to love, and I just admire her from the time that I met her. She's an inspiration, and the fact that she is running this film festival is just a testament to the power that she has as a woman, as an actor, as a filmmaker. And I love that she's sharing that with other people and giving us a chance as well to showcase our work. And it's a very unselfish thing that she's doing, and I'm really grateful for her.
Angelica Alejandro is a Toronto-based actor who's appeared in film, television, and commercials. She's an award-winning producer, accomplished presenter, reporter, and host. Her work has been accredited and awarded within North America, while also receiving acclaim in Barcelona, India, Amsterdam, Nice, and Cannes, just to name a few. You can see her in many acclaimed projects, such as Amazon's The Boys, Hulu's The Handmaid's Tale, New Line Cinema's It Chapter 2, and Netflix Let It Snow. Woo. She's a member of various acting unions internationally and is particularly active in the Toronto community. When not working on a production, her time away from camera is spent using her voice and experience working as a volunteer with ACTRA, promoting members, education, and supporting safe space on set. She's a member of various committees within the union, hosting workshops at the Union Members Conference, working as an on-set liaison officer doing set visits for background performers, minor performers, and engaging with intimacy coordinators. She's also a facilitator for Actors Respect on Set training and participates as a juror for the Academy of Canadian Cinema and Television. Angelica has worked with many creatives, developing, producing, collaborating original works, which have enjoyed viewings in many local and international festivals. These projects have led her to the acclaimed Cannes Film Festival twice. Angelica stresses the importance of being active and staying engaged in order to anticipate the next great moment in this very ever-evolving industry. After attending the Open World Toronto Film Festival these past few years, she was honored to accept the invitation to become a juror. And Angelica feels the Open World Toronto Film Festival is a festival that supports, encourages, and creates a great space for filmmakers to gather. A festival that is great for the Toronto community, and she is happy to be here with us today. Let's welcome Angelica Alejandro to the stage. Why don't we start with some of your work as an actress? Do we have any actors here tonight?
Yeah.
Do we have any actors that are just starting out in the industry? Okay, awesome. Yeah, she'll be able to answer a lot of great questions. So let's just start from the beginning a little bit. How did you start out in the acting industry? And a really practical question, how did you get your foot in the door?
Okay, so for this, it's gonna have to be twofold. And it might allude towards my age, but that's okay, because you know what? We can play what we call age range. So back when I was younger, one of my friends actually was active in the industry. So she actually took me on a couple of her Go Caesar auditions and said, oh, my friend's tagging along, let her audition too, because we were both similar in stature and look, and that really got me going. But again, with traditional parents, the one thing as you graduate high school is, okay, so now are you gonna become a nurse? Are you gonna become an accountant? Are you gonna become some, long story short, I ended up in the field of technology. I was a consultant, and many of the systems you probably use today in terms of calculating your insurance quotes or your financials, I probably helped build. So I'm guilty of that. And if you're not happy with it, I'm not in the industry anymore. I've now come back to acting. So yes, so insurance questions, stocks, finances, how to calculate your paychecks for all my actor friends out there. I got you covered. But then what happened was, it's one of those things where you take a second look at your life and think, okay, I really missed something. What am I missing and what do I want to do? And if you admit that there's something that's lacking and you say, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it full out and go in. That's what ended up happening in 2012, actually. So I've only been back in the game since 2012, believe it or not. And it was a series of events. A lot of it also dealt with, one of the last conversations I had with my cousin before she passed was, you really gotta do what you want to do because you don't know how much time you had. And then she passed away and she was 33. So that was one thing where really, if you wanna do it, you have to at least try. Even if you fail, that's okay. You can get back up, you can try something else. But it's never going to be too late. The only thing that's too late is your mentality to take that jump and take that leap. And how I got my foot in the door, which was completely by coincidence, was as soon as I did that, and they usually say when you're thinking about something, when you're positive about something, and when you kind of emit that vibe, or you share your ideas and you're open and you're not closed off, you never know what's going to come your way. So with that, actually, it was the salon that I used to go to. She said, oh, I have a friend. He's actually starting up again. I thought, okay, well, he's starting up, I'm starting up. And sure enough, when he said, okay, you know what, let's have a try. And I said, yeah, definitely, let's have a try, because I'm all for giving a chance, and he wanted to take a chance on me, and he said, okay, I'll send you out for this audition. Went into the audition, and I booked it, and that was my first commercial. Ended up on the side of a TTC bus. Good times.
So another practical question, just for people that are starting out in the industry, I think the idea of getting a first agent can be a bit daunting. Can you give any advice about how to properly work with an agent, just connecting with an agent in general?
So this is one of the questions. So at ACTRA, which is our acting union here, I also do the Respect Onset training. And a lot of it is for people who just joined the union. And therefore, they have a ton of questions, and this is one of them. And I always love volunteering to teach that class because I learn something new in each and every class from each and every person there. So that's a great thrill for me. Even though I've taught it numerous times, it's one of the questions that we'll get first, where I've had my agent for a while, or I'm thinking of getting a new representation, or I don't have representation. How do you get an agent? So the one thing I'll always say is look to your friends. And the reason is because we're a community, and in our community, where Mad Resilience Films, that's Mark over there, he creates a great family environment, and through that, over the years, many people have joined the family, and we all look out for each other. We'll all give each other advice. We'll all ask each other, well, how have you heard about this? Or what do you think about this? And it's one of those things where you'll find in this industry, it can put you down a lot, and it can be really scary and really daunting, but if you have a good foundation of good people around you that you can ask, those are the people to ask. So I always say, ask those people first, see what they say. Secondly would be any of the ones that you're interested in going to, look at their rosters. The reason being is, let's put this for an example. Great agency, amazing agency, and they want you, they want to help you. But what if they have literally 30 people that look exactly like you? So when they send for these auditions, are they going to send all 30 of you? The hard fact is they might not, but they really want you. So, I mean, it's okay to give them a chance, but I would say do your homework. That's the important thing. Looking at that roster and always remembering this. We have so many amazing agents in this city, but one person may have a good experience, one person may have a bad experience with that same agent. Is that agent bad? No, they're just not the right fit. Because at the end of the day, it's a partnership, right? So just like your friends, there's certain friends that you get along with okay, and there's certain friends where you just click. It's almost like you know each other's thoughts, you're on the same page. That's what you also need in an agent, right? For the partnership to work, because it is a business. And you have to be able to trust them, and they have to be able to trust and work with you, knowing that when they send you on that audition, they know that you've got it. So those are the two I always say. Ask your friends because you have a great community here, and also look at their roster to see who's on it.
Referral and do your homework. So auditions, also another thing that can be a bit daunting. You were mentioning that you did book your first audition, yes, which doesn't always happen.
That's right. I was very lucky.
Now, just with your experience with auditioning, can you think of an audition that you had that when you were starting out, maybe not even necessarily that one, but another one, and let's, say maybe it's one that didn't go quite well. Now, with your experience where you are now, what would you tell yourself at that moment in time going in? What advice would you give yourself?
I would say that whoever's in that audition room with you, there could be 50 people, there could be 5. Know that each and every one of you have a shot going in. That when you walk in through the door, do what you do what you want to do what you have intended to do. Whatever you've committed to, don't second guess yourself because somebody comes out the door going, yeah, hey, yeah, nailed it. Yeah, they nailed it. But are they the one that they're going to choose? You don't know. So by putting yourself down already before you even have your turn out the door, that's going to really, pardon my expression, suck. Go in, just say, you know what? You have that, I can have that same reaction too when I leave that room. But I could say the one thing that I would advise for everybody, when you go to an audition, really take a very, very good mental image of that room. Here's the reason why. You go into that room, you know exactly, here's the table, here's where they're going to be sitting, here's where the camera is, here's where the reader's going to be, here's going to be my mark. Because why? That takes the guesswork out. So when you go in, it's like the room is like your living room. You're familiar, you're comfortable, and you can perform and do your thing. You're not nervous about, okay, am I stepping the right place? You feel comfortable. And the minute you feel comfortable, you trust yourself, you trust your instinct, and you trust that you're going to do a really good job. Second thing is when I say be really, really attentive to your surroundings. So here's where one audition didn't go so well. You know the backdrop? Don't wear your backdrop. So if you have a fantastic blue blouse that you think is a great, great, great blouse, that's great, but not if that backdrop is also the same color as that fantastic blue blouse. Because what's gonna happen? You're gonna be the floating head. And it's one of those things too where when you go in, don't just go into the audition and do it. Go in, take a mental look, as I said earlier, find out and sort of capture in your head where everyone's sitting, where the camera was positioned, where your reader's positioned, where you're marked, but also what the backdrop is. Because when you go in, you won't be wearing something that makes you look like the floating head, AKA one of my bad auditions.
Now, you've done a lot of different projects. So you've been on bigger budget sets, you've done a lot of independent films that have had smaller budgets. Tell us about a project that you're really proud of and what makes it stand out in your mind.
Aside from all the mad projects that we've done, I would say the one that I'm proud of, only because it was challenging in a sense where I really didn't know if I could do it, was when I worked actually overseas. So I flew out over to the Philippines, and we shot on location in a jungle, and I really didn't think I could do it, only because, I don't know about you, but creepy crawlies always get me. But it was also the material. Not only did I have to speak in Tagalog, which was okay with me because I'm definitely proud of that, but it was just the material that it was the material that we had to shoot. And knowing how tortured the mother was in her recollection of the events, and just thinking, I don't even know if I can do this justice. I'm basically recreating your entire experience, and it's never gonna be equal to the hell that you went through. But I'm going to try my best. And when she watched it, and I didn't actually get this firsthand, she actually sent a letter after. The one thing that stood out was she didn't write a whole letter about what she liked, what she didn't like. All she said was, "You did me proud." And for that it still makes me kind of sad, because I wish I could see her, but I know that she doesn't like to leave the States very often, only because of what had happened when she had gone to the Philippines. But I do have to say that being able to be part of her story, the importance of, even if you're scared that you can't do it because you're thinking, this is a person's story, I don't know if I can do it justice, you have to really try. And you have to trust that your director also is going to do it justice. And that team as a whole, because we had a team from the UK, we also had a local team from the Philippines. We're all committed to it. And being committed to it, knowing how important it was, and knowing how much she and her son went through, and then being able to shoot it and have them look at it and be happy and proud with it. That, I think, is the one thing to this date that will always be something to me, because win or lose, as long as they were happy with it, that made me really happy with it.
And had you played a person, like a real life person before? Did you have experience doing that before, or did that?
That was probably the hardest role, but I've had other roles where I've played a real life person before, but unfortunately they're all deceased. So this was the first time I played a real life person who was actually still alive to watch it. Yeah. And therefore she's reliving it through me, so that was, hard.
A lot of pressure with that one. Now, I was wondering, in terms of material that you come across, what is the most frustrating thing about the material you get as an actress, especially looking at when you first started out, but also now, and just with diversity, stereotypes, there's a lot of problems with that in material. How has it changed when you started out to now? Have you seen positive changes?
I've seen changes in the sense where we're moving away and I'll put this out there, for all of our actor friends, as well as anyone who's actually watched and then kind of noticed, hey, have you heard the word, oh, you're the token fill in the blank here. And you look at that and you're thinking, does it have to be the token fill in the blank here? Because they're characters, they're stories, they're people, and it's important to be told. So I find that we've moved away, but yet there's still progress where no one's the token, this person, token, that person. It's just a role. We're all going to go out and try for this role. Because back in the day it was, and I remember a casting director had told me, well, if you notice, sometimes we'll bring in this person of this ethnicity, that, and the other, because we don't know what we're trying to do with this role yet. We're trying to be open and try to get feedback, but it's more, okay, you are the doctor, or the scientist, or the mathematician, or the smart one, or the lawyer, or the grumpy one, or it's just, okay, but really, is that just based on my ethnicity? And that was back in the day. So it's not so much now. It's still a progression, but I find that at least now this is just the role versus this is the token of anything.
Wow. Well, let's move a little bit into your producing work as well. So you do a lot of, you produce a lot of different projects. And I was wondering, what do you find is the most rewarding part of being a producer?
When you get to watch really amazing auditions from people who it's their first time that they're doing something, or it's the first time they've auditioned for something. Maybe they've come from theater or they've just moved here, and it's not that they're an unknown, but you've just never got to, you see them, and then when you see them, you're thinking, oh my God, this is amazing. And you want to work with them, and you're so excited to work with them. And even if you can't work with them on that project, you want a project just to have them there. But it's also just, it's broadening your community, because you see certain people that you may have never met, and now you see them, you see their work, and it's almost as if, hey, you know what? Even if we couldn't, that person may really be interested because they're totally what they're looking for in their project. So it's a matter of making sure that whoever you come across, you kind of take care of each other. And you keep them in mind, but you also realize that it's okay to share. I'm not one where it's like, oh, I have this piece of information, I'm not going to share it with anybody, we're just going to hold it close to your heart. Okay, what does that ever really solve? Because it's definitely not positive in any way, shape, or form, and it's definitely not community building. It's definitely not trying to share and engage and connect with somebody if you're just trying to hold it and keep it, thinking if I have it, then no one else has it, then that's okay. It makes me more successful. No, it doesn't. It makes you really lonely. And secondly, it's not helping anybody, much less yourself. Yeah. So I always find that being able to share, being able to be there for one another is a very big thing. And in a lot of what we have now in Toronto, you have different groups of friends who that's what it's all about. And I know I'm going to say it again, mad resilience, yay Mark.
Mark, just give away.
Just give away. Just give away, please.
Give a nice little wave. There he is.
So, if you look the other day when we all came because we had a film screening here, and everyone that came, it's just, oh, it's a great, reunion. Why? Because everyone's worked with each other, everyone's friends with each other, everyone truly just wants to be there and just enjoy each other's company. Yeah. And it's a great reunion, but that's the thing. It's who you meet in this industry. Not only I look at it from the perspective, somebody asked me once, okay, so I have a self-tape and I have nobody. Yeah, you do. If you look at who you have that you talk to on a daily basis, you probably have somebody that can. And that's the whole point of engaging and being part of your community, is because the person that you're helping self-tape now, they'll do a solid on you and they'll make sure that they're there for your self-tape too. Or, in the instance where they need somebody to be their boom, and they may only be 5 feet, and you really want to help them out, you will be their boom operator, AKA me. I might never ever do it again because, heck, I'm probably going to injure a lot more people than help the situation, but I'll crew up happily if someone asked me.
Yeah. You're also a good boss as well. You have to, when you produce, you have to be able to be the boss as well.
You have to, but here's the reason, because there is a budget. And that's the one thing, it's hard. Coming up together with a budget is a hard thing to have and then to adhere to. And then you also have all the other stuff that no one ever wants to deal with, which is all the paperwork, the finances, the location, and trying to keep everybody else kind of happy. Insurance is important. If you don't know that now, whenever you do a shoot, please have insurance. But it's one of those things where your director needs to focus. So does your DOP. So does all your crew. They just need to focus on what they're supposed to do. So you have to kind of go around and make sure that everything else is taken care of, because why? They rely on you to do it. And it's one of the most rewarding experiences you will ever have, because you realize, wow, this is how much goes into this. And then you think, it does take a village. And you're really grateful for that village.
I think it's a new appreciation of this stuff too, when you step from an actor to a producer and you see the amount of hands that go into it. Now, when you're deciding on what projects you want to produce, what are you generally looking for? What kind of captures your attention?
The story, who's doing it, who's in it, where we hopefully can shoot it, because you find some hidden gems in our city in terms of location, but also it would have to be based on time. If I will not commit to something if I can't fully, because then I feel that I'm doing injustice to the entire team that way. Right. But as much as possible, wherever I can help, I'm down for that.
Now, have you encountered any specific struggles as a female when it comes to working as a producer?
Yeah. It's usually when, let's say, for example, for example, like, back to insurance, that's always fun. When talking and getting insurance for your project, and you call and you're trying to get a quote. Simple enough, right? But then when they say, oh, okay, so are we gonna be dealing with you? Yes. Okay, so this is what you get. And let me explain what it is. Yeah, no, I've already been in insurance, I'm fine. I actually need this coverage, that. I don't need this, but I may need that. I'll only need this for a certain amount of time and that's when they start, oh, okay, so we can talk to you normally. Well, you should have talked to me normally to begin with. It's not that they try to give you a hard time, but it's just almost, oh, if we're dealing with you, okay, maybe we'll need to explain it a little bit more. No, you don't. And if there's something that I don't understand, full out, I'll say, please, let's take the time to go through it together so there's no surprises. But it's just that hurdle. And I remember there was one meeting that we had, and it was women in film, and somebody had mentioned in terms of grants and funding. And the one thing she said was, ask for money like a man. And we all laughed. We're thinking, what? She's like, no, seriously, ask for money like a man. Ask like, I want this, I need this, versus, can I have this? May I? Because it's basically asking and demanding with respect. Always, always, always with respect. But asking and demanding as if you were a man. And we were all baffled and we thought, really? She's like, yeah, write that quote down. So actually I have it in my notebook. I wrote the quote down, ask for money like a man. And more often than not, it actually does work. But it's just sad that there had to be that quote to begin with for us to sort of like switch the way that we were asking for grants or money.
In terms of grants, this leads me into my next question, coincidentally. What are some grant opportunities that are out there for people, and specific resources for people that want to do their own projects and put their own work out there?
Well, the one thing that I would say is that there are different communities that you can be part of here in Toronto. Based on those communities, let's say, for example, Women in Film is one. So that would be obviously geared toward, basically all the females and trying to get money and funding and support that way. Also, actually, the next project that I'm doing is I'm helping two of my friends that I've met from back in the day. So again, this is going back to community. You never know who you're going to work with again, who had asked me to help produce something that they're putting forward for funding. And it's for funding for CBC. So what I would say in terms of where you're going to get your money from, there's a million resources. And if I named all of them now, we'd probably be here for the rest of the night. And I know that none of us all want to do that until midnight because we all have places to be and snow to avoid. But I would say who you would go to, let's say for Ontario Creates, that's always good. But also when whoever's part of TIFF, you know how they have different programs and they try to do different things. There's also, if you're part of alumni, for example, for Canadian Film Center, there's also, Male Women Film is another one. I'm trying to remember, there's another creative one. Maybe you'll probably have to get me on this one after because I'm having a brain moment right now, where they actually have a list on their website of every single grant. But again, it also depends on who it is that's applying for it, what you're applying for. So when you're asking for money, and this goes back to what we had heard was, know exactly what you want, what the money's for, what your story's about. Don't just say, it's hard to say, hi, I need $1,000. Okay, why do you need it? Because I'm gonna make a film. Okay, what are you gonna make a film about? I don't know yet. Because you may not get the funding that you want, but if you said, I'm doing a documentary based on this, and it's going to involve this group or highlight this community, you probably could actually get support from that community, or that community could also then tell you where you could get funding. So knowing exactly what you're doing helps. Also, believe it or not, everybody in this room, I'm sure, can tell each other one other place where they've tried to apply for funding and whether they were successful at it or not. Also, if you look, and I hope that everybody already does this, at the end of the credits to every single film here, so please, I hope everybody does, goes to the end of the credits, you'll actually see different places that they've either got the money from, funding from, and those are important. Not only because you're staying till the end of the credits, because that's a big team that worked on that project, and we should celebrate every single person that's are on those credits, but also it allows you to know who they've approached, maybe where they've got funding, because hey, that's where you can. It's like, you know, I have a film concept similar to that. Go to the end of those credits. Sure enough, you'll probably find where they got their money from, or at least where they've applied for part of their grants, and that's important.
How do you find that, what's the best way you cultivate these creative relationships? What makes them last years and years and years?
Well, friendship is always going to be one thing, but that's not going to be the only thing, because at the end of the day, you can get on your friends' nerves. Let's be real, right? But if you ever look at a lot of even Hollywood projects, the reason that some people always tend to work over and over and over again is, one, they work well together. And when you're on a project, you don't want every day to be a 16-hour day, because you'll be over budget, and a 2-day shoot then turns into 10. Yeah, you can't do that either. So a lot of the times, the reason that people tend to work over and over again, I mean, full disclosure, Sarah and I have worked over and over again together as well.
I have never met her before.
Love-hate relationship. But if you look at the reason why they tend to do it, have you ever observed where you're working with somebody and you're trying to do a certain setup or whatnot for a shot, and you're thinking, okay, you know what would really work here? And it's almost like they read your mind and they know exactly what it is that you want and what you're doing, and then therefore it's almost the nonverbal, because you're on the same page and you know, and therefore it's, oh yeah, that's what I wanted, but actually that's even a lot more better than what I had in mind. It's being able to work efficiently together because you trust each other. You get along together, because at the end of the day, if you did have to work 16 hours, it better be 16 hours with people that you actually like. And the reason that's important is because you don't want to kill each other after those 16 hours, but you're going to travel with each other to film festivals. You are going to be in the same circle of, let's say, for example, Toronto. You're going to see each other over and over again. Whether it be festivals, whether it be at events, you want to cultivate a community where you could work together, you could ask each other for advice, you can ask each other for referrals. But it's one of those things where when you find them, you want to work together over and over again. And a lot of the sets that I visit here in the city when I am in Oslo, which is the Onset liaison officer, I'll often find that the same crews over and over and over again work because they just get each other. And I've always asked, so when you crew up, yeah, when we crew up, we know who we're going to get. So the head knows exactly who they're going to get for that department because they trust each other implicitly. They know how each other works. They work efficiently together, and they get the job done. And they don't have to micromanage, because that's the last thing you want, somebody micromanaging you. You're good at your job. You're good at what you do. And you want to work with a team that you trust that all of you are good and can work together.
I do want to get into your work with ACTRA a little bit. So, especially Oslo, you were saying, just if you could just tell everybody, what is an onset liaison officer? Or what do you do for those who don't know?
So an onset liaison officer, so I'll be called to set. For example, if it's a big BG count, I might get called to set to do a check-in or to look for something specific. Like last week, it was filming exterior and making sure that no one freezes. And the reason is because we have a production agreement that we have here, which is our IPA, which is what mandates certain working conditions. So that's what we're there to make sure of. But I'll also do visits for even small sets. So for example, one day, it was just because it was, and he's our youngest stunt performer to date, to basically shadow him and make sure that he was okay the entire day, because he's our youngest stunt performer and he had to jump in Lake Ontario in March. And it sounds scary, but believe it or not, he was totally used to it, only because is that his parents are actually both stunt performers. So it could be a set of 1, or it could be a set of, I think my highest number is close to 500, where you go in and you make sure of the working conditions. You go there for support. You go there you go there to have people ask you questions and answer them, because we all work really, really hard. We all just want a safe space to work, safe sets. Another thing for safe sets is I usually work also with intimacy coordinators. We have 3 here in Canada. Lindsay Summers is one, Casey Hideki is another, and then Mackenzie Lawrence. They're amazing. And what they try to do is they try to set what a safe set should be when it's a closed set environment. So closed set or restricted set. And what it is making sure that, and this is again, ever since Me Too, making sure that when you're there, you don't feel like it's too many people in the room that's not supposed to be in that room. Only the people that are essential to getting the shot done. And even that, it's making sure that the monitors aren't visible for everyone to see, only who needs to see them. Because you're there and you're at a very vulnerable space. You want to make sure that you're supported, that you have somebody there that can be there for you if you feel uncomfortable, or if you feel that the scene isn't going the way that it's supposed to. It's one of those things where we work really hard. We're all artists. We're all creatives. So therefore, we want to have a space where we can do what we do to the best of our ability. So being in Oslo makes sure that that happens, whether it's going on set for background, whether it's going on set for the actors. And another thing is also for minors. We have a Protecting Child Performers Act here. And that is what needs to be upheld when it comes to minors on set. For the reason is that at the end of the day, kids think that this is fun, but they're also consummate professionals. I'll tell you this right now, every single set that I've gone on with minors, they know this is how many hours I'm allowed to work, this is how many hours I'm allowed to work before my break. So I always know that they know what they're doing, but I also have to make sure to support their parents. Because one day, these minor performers, they could decide, I want to go into acting full time, and this is what they want to do. You don't want them to have an awful experience when they're younger. You want to be able to protect them because they're enjoying this. They want to learn, they want to grow. And they also deserve to be a kid, meaning let's not put them out there for 16 hours and they're only 5 years old. So that's why there's certain things that the Protecting Child Performers Act will mandate so that they could still have a great working environment, safe and fun.
Yeah. Was there a specific moment before you were involved with this that you thought to yourself, I need to do this, I need to be involved?
Well, when you're working as an actor, or when you're working as background, and there was one time that I was working as background, and it was a matter of somebody got injured on set. And just the fact that they felt guilty about being injured and wanting to go home, and I thought, oh, okay, but you got injured, so you should go home. I mean, you twisted your ankle, you should really go home. But it's just the fact that they felt guilty to ask, and I thought, okay, well, why? Because I'm gonna get in trouble because there's no one here to talk to. And I thought, okay, you know what? There's got to be, you know, people that are around to make sure that people feel supported, that they don't feel guilty, that they feel that they're, you know, that they can ask the questions that they need to without repercussions. And then I found out that there were Oslos. And I thought, okay, yeah, that's what I'm going to be. That's what I'm going to do. So that's one thing that I'm proud to do, whether it's, you know, whether it's an interior shot or an exterior shot, especially in the middle of winter. And those are important too, because let's face it, right now, the temperature that we have, we're kind of getting used to it, and it's kind of getting cold. But in March, hey, we think this is balmy weather. We think, hey, great, you know, 1 degree, wow, it's, you know, it's hot out. But now our bodies are kind of like shutting down. So it's important to have somebody out there to make sure that you're not all freezing to death, and you're not out there and working with the productions. Because believe it or not, when I actually go out and I talk to productions, hey, like just the other week, we have 300 people. I know this is an exterior. We can't put up heating tents. Okay, what can we do? Because at the end of the day, let's face it, you can't work if you're miserable. You can't work if you're uncomfortable. You can't work if you feel like no one cares about you. So working with productions to say, hey, what can we do? Because we still need to take care, because we all want to, you know, it's even the crew needs to warm up too. So what can we do that won't stop production and take forever to film this scene, but making sure that everyone's happy and cared for and actually feels cared for, that meaning somebody is supporting them and somebody's watching out for them. And I always go out, every time I go out on assignment, I'll always say, I'm not asking you for miracles, guys, but I'm asking you that at least look out for one other person today. So do the buddy system, look out for one other person today. Don't be that one person who's left in the washroom while everyone else has left and you don't know what's going on. So it's a matter of, we're working with each other for endless amounts of hours. So we obviously get to know each other, we get to care for each other. So at least let's be there for one another and take care of one another.
Yeah. And it's surprising too how many people won't speak up for just basic things that you need. So it's good that you're there to give them a voice. You do so many different jobs. Why is it important to be well-rounded in this industry, and do you find it to be difficult to just be constantly switching back and forth?
I don't find it difficult to be constantly switching back and forth. I think that mostly everyone who knows me from a personal standpoint as my friends, they know that I'm usually jumping through and doing many things, and I really, really enjoy it. And I think the reason that I want to be involved in everything is I've always found that ever since I've come back into this industry, I've been really, really lucky as to who I've gotten to work with, who I've gotten to meet, who I've gotten to get advice from. So I find that the more that I'm out there, the more that I'm learning, but the more that I can help somebody else. I mean, it's not like, hey, I have a cape, I'm gonna swoop in and solve all the world's problems. No, that's impossible. But can I do my part? Can I be there for that one other person if they have a question? Can I help if, let's say, somebody wants to put a film together and they're saying, hey, do you want to work with us? Mm-hmm. I find that being in everything, trying to do everything, I'm not saying go out there and never get any sleep, but find what sparks your passion. I mean, I think the one thing, if I can put that out there, is, you know how they say that you have sort of like this pilot light in you, something that flickers in you and kind of keeps you going. Find what fuels that, find what sparks that, and do it. If it means being in Oslo, if it means teaching a class, if it means being a part of like a library community, which we did last week, find that, do that. And you'll never know who you're gonna meet. You never know who you're gonna work with, and you never know what you're going to learn. That drives me to try to do a little bit of everything, and it gives you a different perspective. The one thing that you realize is when you're in front of the camera, there's certain things that you have to remember. But then when you see it from the other end, you realize why all of that's important. And it gives you the bigger picture. And it really, actually, I'll be completely honest, knowing the bigger picture makes me really, really glad that Toronto is doing so much, and seeing it makes me really happy when all my friends are doing really, really well, because I'm just like, yay! Because you're supporting them. And you know, you want to be excited, you want to cheer them on, you also want to look out for them, because you didn't come into this alone. You know, where you are now is a buildup of everything else that's happened. And I mean, you know, we all have our ups and downs, don't get me wrong. But remember this, if you're in a down moment now, remember that to somebody else who's just starting, that's an up moment for them because they want to be where you are. So be gracious and kind and try to help that other person out. That's basically all I can say.
Now, in terms of the Open World Toronto Film Festival, what's one of your favorite moments from this festival? Because you've been involved now for a while.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, the coolest thing was on Thursday, and I think I put it on one of my Instagram stories. I'm usually horrible with social media, but it was the reunion that everyone had here on the Friday, where it was like, oh my gosh, it's like a Mad Resilience reunion. And just like seeing everyone, even seeing everyone now, because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, Joanne, we went to a film festival down in like Atlanta together. How have you been? It's one of those things where literally you realize how amazing this festival is in bringing people together. Maybe, yeah, some of the people that you know, but mostly it's just bringing everyone together to appreciate and celebrate everybody's achievements. There's no small achievement. There's no like super humongous achievement that makes everyone feel small. We're all celebrating each other. We're in this together. And the more that we remember that, then it's one of those things where I hope one day that our community will be strong and everyone will see it and want to just keep working with super cool Torontonians.
Well, we have time for question and answer. There's probably some things that if we didn't cover it, here's your chance to ask Angelica. We already have a hand, we have 2 hands up already. Okay, well, yeah, let's start with the Q&A from you guys. Yeah, yourself. Yeah.
Hi, I have a difficult question. It's difficult for me because I don't know how to word it correctly, but have you ever been involved in a project that you felt like your scene partner is not all in and it's compromising the quality of your work, and how do you handle that situation?
What's your name?
Sarah.
Sarah, lovely to meet you, Sarah. Okay, that's happened once. And the funny thing is that I asked my scene partner, is it me? Like, is there something that I'm doing that's not giving you what you need? And he actually told me straight out, I didn't even realize that I was doing what I was doing. And it's one of those things where sometimes if it's a particular subject, we might go on autopilot, we might be in a zone, and therefore we come across our scene partner as not caring or not giving or being difficult. So my whole thing has always been honesty. You could say, you know, my breath stinks, if I'm not doing well, just, you know, tell me what it is. And he literally just said, I didn't even realize I was doing that. I didn't even realize I was coming across that way. Okay, so then we had the discussion and we reapproached it. But he actually really didn't know, and it wasn't until I said something that he kind of took a second look and thought, oh, okay, well, I'm sorry. And I'm like, it's not that you have to be sorry about anything, it's just that we automatically always feel guilty that it's like something that we're doing. But in this case, it was just he really didn't think in terms of that he was coming across in a mean or a cold or confrontational way. So I'm always about, honesty is the best policy, so just be honest. I mean, it's something that my dad taught me way back when. If you don't ask the question, the answer is always going to be no. So in this case, if I never asked, I would have never known, and I would have always assumed that, well, gee, he's just being a jerk. But he wasn't. He was actually a really, really nice friend, and I still actually am friends with him to this day. Thanks, Sarah.
Yes.
You talked about you being part of the Onset liaison officer, and that is on union productions. So there might be some actors that are non-union, and it's a different world out there, and there's crazy things that happen, and having experienced many of those crazy things, what advice do you have for them to look after themselves in that situation where they don't have an officer on set to help?
It's actually really good that you asked me, because I was talking with one of the other gentlemen last week, because as an example, he hasn't gotten paid and it's been 3 months. Yeah, and he was continuity on it for, I believe he said it was like 16 days, and he was continuity on it and he hasn't gotten paid at all. So the one thing that I asked him was, do you know the name of the production company? Like, well, I think I might. So we've actually been messaging, because yes, it's a non-union production, so of course they can't have actor on them to try to say, hey, pay this person, but there are ways. And here's the one thing that we did. So we actually approached the production company. I helped him craft a letter to approach the production company to basically ask where his payment was. And then from that, we followed up, because it's a matter of when that production company closes, who's still on the hook and who still are the people. So then it was a matter of tracking all those people down. And from last I've heard, he's actually going to receive payment. Now again, hasn't received it yet, but it's better than the response where he's like, I guess I'm never gonna get paid for it. Like, no, you have to ask. You have to ask with every breath that you have, because you worked hard for that money. In the sense of, let's say for example, it's an intimate scene. As an example, so one of the girls that I know, she's actually on a non-union set, and she had a scene. It wasn't explicit, and it wasn't anything other than she had to wear a bathing suit, and it's still one of those things where you're kind of
Comfortable with it. So I went through, well, in a union set, this is the protocol that we would follow, and an intimacy coordinator would also enforce, and it's actually a big list as to what's needed. Approach your production and see who is going to be helping you with this. It turns out that it was her second AD that looked it over, discussed it with her. Then she went to her first AD with what basically she was expecting, and made sure that it was actually in her contract. Because a contract is a legal document that you could potentially get them for. You would have to work harder at it, because obviously it's a non-union set, but it is still a legal binding document. And if you actually look to, there's certain sections of it, because I've written some before, where it's actually, you look at the laws that are governing it, how you would then go to getting, let's say for example, if you were suing them for something, exactly who you would be suing. All of that's in your contract. It's a matter of then enforcing it and making sure that you're on top of your legal work. As another note out there, I always say this to everyone, when you go and sign your contract, if it's 7 or 8 pages, initial every single page. Initial every single page. And I know that sounds almost like ominous, but the reason that I say is, 1, it's a legal document. 2, if you initial every single page and not just sign the end page, then you know that if they changed anything, then your initial would not be on that page. And therefore, they violated the document and they violated the contract of law. It's a matter of literally, I know it's gonna say CYA, which is cover your, but you have to. You have to protect yourself first, because you're the first line of your own defense. And then it's who you have to support you. So your first AD, for example, or in the case of a union production, who you could go to there, and there are many resources within the union as well who you could go to. But it's funny because, and my husband will probably tell you, more often than not, I'll get text messages or MSN messages at all hours of the night, and I can't solve everything, but I always tell them, because they're friends, I'll say, here's my ear, and here's what I think you could do. Because again, I don't have all the answers, and trust me, I always never to say I'm the most boring person. I don't claim to have any of the answers, but I am a friend, and I do watch out for everybody within my community to the best of my ability. Because at the end, sometimes somebody already knows the answer, somebody already knows what they want to do, they just kind of need to bounce it off of somebody. So I don't mind being that bouncing board. Thanks, Joanne.
2 more questions.
Can you tell us a little bit about the various levels of union? So I presume you're full actor?
Yes.
You jumped right into Apprentice. I'm guessing from what you said, you got a commercial.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Jim.
Jim, hi Jim, nice to meet you. Okay, so how I came about it was I had actually one role, and I actually didn't join the union right away. I know, naughty me, right? But in all honesty, I really didn't feel that I was ready. And I know that for some people, it's like, what do you mean? Well, I didn't feel that I was ready in terms of where I was in my career. And I have to be honest with myself, right? I mean, maybe I'm gonna lose out on a lot of things because I didn't join right away. But I also have to remember that when I am part of the union and all the people that then you're then also competing against, you wanna make sure that, you know, when you go out there, that, hey, yes, I can do this. So I didn't actually join right away after that one role, but subsequently I actually booked 2 episodes on one show, another episode on another. So within a span of 1 month, I actually went from apprentice to full because of that. So if you want to look at it from this perspective, within the union, there is AABP, which is Additional Actor Background Performer. There's also apprentice. Then there's also full member. So those are the 3. And then stunts are a whole other thing. And I mean, look at me. Do I look like I know anything about stunts? But there's some really, really great stunt performers.
Thanks,
One more
Jim.
question. Sarah's got another question there. Sarah. All right. Jet, go ahead.
In terms of acting, what is your approach? Like when you get the script, do you do the whole character analysis and text work, or you rely on your impulses and your personal experience?
So the one thing is, if it's a biopic, it's a lot, I think for me, it's a lot more emotional when it's a biopic, because it's like, oh my goodness, regardless of what I do, is it ever gonna be good enough? Because literally, this person is a real person versus an imaginary person that I can fake a backstory and create all of this thing for this character. So I think for me, it would depend on what it is that I'm receiving, and then breaking it down from that point. And I remember when, in the sense of when it was that biopic, I actually watched her entire, I don't want to use the word interview because really she was she was recalling everything, but it was watching that. And again, I'm not going to be mimicking everything she said in her recollection, but it was just seeing her certain mannerisms or whatnot, that also you have to convey, you can't eliminate. Certain ways that she speaks, certain ways that she, you know, talks and walks or whatnot, you know, that's gonna have to be part of my process and part of what I'm gonna have to put out there. So it would really depend on, for me at least, what it is that's in front of me. If it's a real person or not a real person, because obviously, again, if it's a real person, you're not gonna try to do disservice by creating this whole other person, because they're real. And if they're not real, then you get to have a lot of fun. But again, you have to respect what's on paper and respect what's there, because there could be a lot of things you're thinking, oh, it'd be better if they did this, that, and the other, but you don't know until you actually come about it and have a discussion and creative discussion as to why certain things are that way. Because again, our interpretation may be the right one, but it also may be slightly different.
What's your creative process like in terms of getting ready for a role? Just briefly, if you could tell me in terms of like rehearsals or.
What's your name?
Damali.
That's really pretty. Thanks for the question, Damali. Okay, so I will have to say the one thing, and I'll take an example, and then because I know that we have to go, but then we can always talk after. If you're doing something that involves a lot of crying, don't focus on crying. Don't do it. Stay hydrated, that's really important because you know you're gonna cry, but don't focus on, okay, I'm gonna cry this way and I have to cry because I'm putting it on. That's a lot of pressure, and it's hard to perform forcing yourself to feel something that you don't. So don't focus on, I'm gonna cry because that's what's needed. If there's crying involved, there are ways to connect to that and get to that place, rather than forcing yourself to feel something fake. Because you know how sometimes you look and you're thinking, that looks really fake. Yeah, probably because it was.
Yeah.
Thanks, Molly.
Angelica?
What?
Thank you. It's been
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, everyone.
enjoying
know I broke my heart for every game to taste the sweet. Oh, I face the pain. I rise and fall. Yet through it all, this much remains. I want one moment in time when I'm more than I thought I could be. When all of my dreams are hard to fade away, and the answers are all up to me. Give me one moment in time when I'm racing with destiny. Then, in that one moment of time, I will feel eternity. Yeah. I live to be the very best. Oh, I want it all. No time for less. I lay the plans, no lay the chance. Here in my hands, give me just one moment in time when I'm more than I thought I could be. When all of my dreams are hurried away, and the answers, they're all up to me. Give me just one more moment in time. Oh, and I'm racing with destiny. Oh, then in that one moment of time, I would be, oh, I would be eternity. Oh, you're a winner for that time. If you see that one moment in time, make it shine. Give me one moment in time when I'm more than I thought I could be. When all of my dreams are hard to feel away, and the answers, they're all up to me. Give me just one moment in time. Oh, when I'm racing with destiny. Oh, man, in that one moment of time, I will feel, oh, I will be free. Oh, I will be free. That's what it's all about, that one moment. That one moment. When you make that decision to be what you want to be. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for appreciating all the talent that has been shown for the last 4 days. Just amazing when we think of the collaboration and the culmination of all the different people in this room, even today, that have brought so much to others through their art, through their craft, through their inspirations, through their motivation. So you all deserve a round of applause. Come on now. Fantastic. So we're going to continue the show, and I know we have a few screening left, right, Sabine? She's the boss over there, by the way. She said, Jay, are you going to sing? But I know it was not really a question. Because she asked me a number of times, Jay, are you going to sing? All right, so the next screening we're going to see for Best Story and Screenplay is Second Act by Anya Adams. I'm not sure, is Anya here? Any of the team members? Okay, so we're going to just sit back and we're going to enjoy this film, Second Act. Give it up.
It's been a script to me and hired Damascene and most incredible film. I'm extremely grateful to have such a sweet little love story between two older people who've been through.
My name is Dominique Browns, and I'm involved in this festival as a moviegoer and a really good friend of Sabine who comes every year and attends the festival. I've been a jury a couple of years ago, and yes, I usually always try to attend at least one full day of the event to see a couple of movies. I really think it's a great opportunity to see movies that I would not otherwise have the chance to see from usually like all across, like from all around the world really. So it's been great so far. I'm also an actor and a filmmaker. I write, I directed my first short film earlier this year, and I produced it and acted in it as well. You can find me on social media at, it's DB Brown, so D-E-E, B as in baby, Browns, B-R-O-W-N-E-S. I'm also on Facebook, Dominique Browns, but I do not have a website. You're gonna see movies that you're not gonna see in a theater, so it's a little bit more like the independent circuit, which I think is really interesting. It's a little bit more artsy, a little bit less commercial than what you see in the movie theaters at the Scotiabank or any of those really huge movie theaters. And it also gives you a different perspective of all of those filmmakers all around the world, from the States, all across Canada. So I really like to see those different voices as well. It's day 4, and I think my favorite part of the festival is really the people, the Q&As, being able to see the people who made those fantastic movies and interacting with different friends who come every year and attend the festival as well, dressing up. My film is called Meet Me Inside. I'm definitely submitting it to this festival next year, so, and also I'm really hoping that it will be able to do the film circuit, the film festival circuit. So yes, Meet Me Inside, check it out.
That was so wonderful. Thank you very, very much. It was such an inspiring story.
Hi, I'm Jamie College. I'm the composer for Jack Stones.
Hi, I'm Taylor McConaughey. I was the post supervisor and editor.
Hey, I'm Tim. I directed it.
Watching the film, I felt there was a real community and love that really just was the common thread for this whole movie, and belief in oneself. And that to me is just what was so beautiful about it. I was watching it at home and I was just crying. I was like, this is incredible that they all had so much love for each other in this movie. And I was wondering in terms of what made you want to work on this project and write it?
First of all, I love that you identified it like that. Nobody ever describes the movie that way, and that's the core of the movie. When we went to the Philippines to shoot this, we didn't know we were going to shoot this movie. We thought we were going to shoot a movie about a grandma who rides a motorcycle and chases away poachers. That's what we thought we were going to film. But if any of you are documentarians, if you're doing the job right, the movie you go out to film is not the movie you get. And that wasn't the movie we got in the end. What we found is exactly as you described. There's this network of people this small community that really cares about each other, and they all rely on each other. They also hurt each other, as you can see in it. You know, power can corrupt. You know, and people make bad decisions, people make good decisions, and they're all in the same boat together. And so when we dropped our cameras there, and it wasn't just us, we actually hired, to achieve what we got, we actually hired a lot of local people. Most of the crew is from that community or from the greater Philippines if the talent wasn't there. Like, you know, there's not going to be film production people, you know, living in a small fishing village, but in Manila, the capital city of the Philippines, there's a wealth of talent. So really, the three people you see here are almost the only three Canadians. I think there were 2 more Canadians involved in the production. Everybody else was Filipino. So that's how we captured that truth, was by being open to capturing what was really there, and then stepping back and letting it happen.
And in terms of getting World Vision involved in that, how did you get that?
World Vision, believe it or not, was the people asking for something like this. They didn't know what they wanted. They wanted something different. I don't know, how many people here are familiar with World Vision?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. So about 30 years ago or so, if you're familiar with the way World Vision was storytelling, they're somewhat complicit about in creating some certain stereotypes about people in developing countries, in the way that they told their story on TV. And it was really successful back then, financially, let's say, and it got great development work done. But looking back today, in hindsight, they helped create some negative stereotypes. And there's a huge appetite at World Vision to change opinions, change the way we look at international development, and show it really authentically in a healthy way that hopefully we're not embarrassed to look at 20, 30 years from now. And so World Vision, like I said, had a huge appetite for that, and so they were open to anything. And so we've been working on what we call an inclusive, ethical filmmaking methodology, where we go to the people who are going to be in front of the camera, and we teach them our filmmaking process. And we allow them to lead the filmmaking process the whole way through. And whoever's in front of the lens is equally represented by who's behind the lens. And so the reason why World Vision was involved is because they were all invested in storytelling the right way.
Okay, I found that absolutely incredible. And what I was really I couldn't believe just the love. I mean, I can believe it, but to see the values passed down from the grandfather to Delphine, and just how much revere that he had for his grandfather, and working in the rice fields and drawing, and you know, it was just amazing. I was really touched by it, the fact that there was just such a strong, like I said, I keep saying it, but a really strong love. And I was curious, what is Delphine doing now?
Delphine just graduated. I'm friends with him on Facebook, so I keep in touch with him. Delphine just graduated from high school. His aunt right now in Manila is helping support him going to university, and so he's still pursuing being an illustrator and a graphic designer, which, if you're coming from a small fishing village, is completely not in your realm of possibilities, but he's making it happen.
He's making it happen, and I'm also curious in terms of Ruth and Joseph, how are they getting along? She was a real strong force to reckon with. She was
yeah, I can't believe she just let that all happen on camera.
I know. I was amazed by her, I don't even know what the word is, but yeah, I was amazed by her push. She didn't care about what anyone was going to say. It was just like, this is the way it is.
Yeah, you were there for that too.
The authority of it.
Pardon me?
Her authority and her.
Very authoritative. Yeah. Very authoritative, and she just wanted it her way, and she wasn't really.
Yeah, what I noticed about Ruth, what I found fascinating, I had some time to think about it now because we shot that last April. Yeah. What I find fascinating about Ruth, I think, so one thing is our process. So we teach people the filmmaking process, and we get them used to what we're doing so that the cameras disappear for them and they don't realize the camera's there. So I think partially that's why Ruth was acting that way, like completely oblivious or acting like she didn't care that the cameras were there. Because by day one, by the end of day one, usually a person starts to forget the camera's there. And by day two, they totally forget, but then sometimes they notice. But then day three, filming with people, it's like the camera doesn't exist anymore. But Ruth, in addition to that, I think that like Ruth wanted to sort of flex in front of the rest of the community and say, I don't care about these people coming in here shooting. I'm going to still run this place like I run this place. And part of it was a demonstration of her power. But I don't think she understands, in the grand scheme of things, how that's, you know, perceived.
And how have things changed now? Are they still similar? Are they still the same? Have any rulings changed since Joseph is?
Yeah, well, Joseph and the community have more leverage now, but I think the way it's happening right now, it's a real honest way from what I've been doing this about 10 years with international development, telling stories. And it's really showing a case of how it honestly happens. If you think of like trying to overcome your situation as like, this is poverty and this is like thriving. This is where you are with poverty, this is where you're thriving. There's like a stake in the ground here. And sometimes you can add resources and stuff like that. And it's like you're attached to a rubber band. You can pull for a little while, and then it snaps you back a little bit. You keep trying to pull. And really the trick is to try to nudge where that stake is, further and further and further. And so to be completely honest, last time I checked in, we've nudged the stake, but you know, we're still with the rubber band situation, and Joseph and Ruth are still trying to work it out. It's really tough in the political climate, if you know anything about the Philippines, with reporting government corruption and whatnot, because the ramifications are fatal right now. From what I understand, I should put that caveat for the lawyers out here.
And I'm just curious, are there any other ways that they can make money other than rice and fishing or in the restaurant? Are there any other ways of them making money? Because I was literally watching and going, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here in my condo, on my couch, I've got clean water, I've got everything, I have nothing to complain about. I mean, they had extreme poverty and love, and they're working in rice fields and fishing, and it's just, that's what they love, and it's amazing.
Yeah, the other way, from what I understand, and again, I'm no expert, but you know, domestic workers are huge in the Philippines. In that province specifically, there's a beer company that has a bottling plant. The name of the beer company was? San something.
Oh, San Miguel.
San Miguel.
Yeah.
So there's like a beer bottling plant there and a liquor plant and stuff. So there are other ways to make money, but it's very much like if you're living in rural Canada somewhere. Like this story could almost be told, you know, in New Brunswick, in a fishing village in New Brunswick too. You know, it's not so dissimilar.
It's not. It's just because even though I know about it, when you see it and you see people living through it and still having so much strength and kindness, and that was just amazing. Like Joseph won because he was kind. That's like, just if you look at what's going on politically right now in the world,
it's not very common.
It's not very common. So to see that, it was just so amazing.
Do you want to talk about Joseph's character a little bit? I feel like I'm monopolizing the mic. You know Joseph well.
I mean, Joseph was amazing. It's not often that being in post-production you get to go and actually be around the people that you're helping form a story about. And so I had a pretty crazy opportunity flying 16 hours and meeting up with the rest of my crew because I was coming in a bit late. And the people were just bar none the most warm, generous, hospitable. No matter what they had, they'd give you anything, you know, the shirt off through your back, you know, and I got a bit sick while I was over there, and Joseph came over to me, and his English is decent, but he came over and he said, he brought me a beer, and he was just like, it'll be okay, come on, you know, come dance. And he would just, I don't know, he just always glowed, and he always exuded warmth and made everybody at ease. And yeah, it was astounding to see. It was nice to be a part of.
I could see that.
Yeah. Well, I hope that it, you know, came through as genuine as it was, you know.
It totally did. It absolutely, 100%. Like I said, I would say it's just like I said, the movie's about love. So thank you very much. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
It seemed like he was going to replace Ruth, or Ruth would have lost the election. The person that he replaced and took their position, did we meet them?
No. So Joseph's role is a counselor. Ruth, so he's an elected official. Ruth is like an appointed government official. So Ruth oversees fishery operations in 11 different communities, but Joseph is the counselor of one of those 11 communities. And you met other counselors from the other 11 communities in the film too. It's a kind of cool thing about the movie, and I'm always so curious if people notice that, like, they're recurring characters. Like, people who are teaching others how to build the jackstones are later running, like, the fishing nets, and who are, like, you know, at the event for Joseph at the end, the celebration. Like you said you noticed it, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a really cool, connected network of people.
It was wonderful. Any other questions? Yes.
With regards to the music, how did you find inspiration for putting this together?
For me, it was really something, you know, seeing the same kind of thing you did. I wasn't actually in the Philippines, but coming back and seeing, you know, what these people are like and what they're doing there, and using that to put that into the orchestral score and kind of bring that through so that, you know, you could feel kind of their work ethic and their warmth.
In terms of getting rights for the songs, Eraserhead on that, how did you do that?
We got lucky. We
That's
got really
a
lucky.
question for
Yeah. One of the camera operators lives in Manila, and he rides motorcycles with the lead singer of Eraserheads.
Wow.
And he told them what we were up to, and they were more than happy to show the song. The publishers, not so much. It took a little bit of coercing, but Eraserheads was more than willing to share the music. They were really thrilled to be part of the project. And for those of you who don't know, this was an interesting tidbit for me. Eraserheads, if you're Filipino, they're like the Beatles of the Philippines,
Yeah.
apparently.
That makes sense. Any other questions? Well, thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. How long did it take you to shoot it?
8 weeks. So that's not entirely true. In 2016, we went to the Philippines for 2 weeks, where we did like scouting and whatnot. And then a year and a half ago, we were there for 5 weeks broken up, and then in between, we had our local crew still shooting things as they were happening. So 8 weeks altogether.
Do you have any other productions you're working on?
Yeah, actually, coincidentally, the three of us are working on a TV series right now. Can we talk much about that or not yet? I keep talking about it.
So it's a docu-series that is going to be focused on travel, culture, music. You know, it's going to be led by herbalist and composer Jamie Gollage, and basically he has a system of herbalism that is based on 8 elements, and each episode we explore each element, and it's in a different locale. It's complemented by local people that are practicing. Some people are practicing, some people are maybe chefs that implement the herbs and everything into their dishes. It can be kind of anybody in that field, but every episode is in a different location and featuring a different element, which leads Jamie to, I guess, 2 or 3 different plants per episode. And you go through herb walks with him. You talk to the local people about what these plants have meant for them through history. It's really kind of something that's unique and close to all of us, and we're hoping that it'll premiere next year. I don't know if you want to talk to that anymore.
So it's basically a collection of knowledge gathered from medieval manuscripts of lost knowledge. You find, like, now in modern medicine, and that they're looking to a lot of those sort of things, because with the advent of chemistry, a lot of that was discarded, and so the early knowledge that was gathered throughout Central Europe and that sort of thing was kind of tossed aside because they had this new thing. And so with going back and looking at this medieval information, it's kind of giving those energetics back to European herbalism. And through that, we're exploring the travel and the culture of the history of those lands and what they did to produce cures that still work now with ailments that modern medicine doesn't necessarily know what to do with. So it'll be travel, culture, music, and this kind of medicine aspect of things that were forgotten.
That's great, because I know that there's a lot of people who don't believe in a lot of medications that are out there because of the side effects of things like chemotherapy and all that. I mean, we all know what I'm talking about. It can be very hard on the body. So I'm not saying it's terrible, I'm just saying very, very hard on the body.
Yeah, I mean, and even more so, there's certain things that they don't have the answers for. So we're trying to fill in those gaps and give people answers when they're actually really sick.
Good. How about diet? Do you hit on diet, like in terms of certain ways to combine diet, alkaline diet, or anything like that?
Of course, because the quote from Hippocrates is that let thy medicine be the food and food be thy medicine. And so that's one of the first things we look at. That's why there's the culinary aspect, and we tie the local plants into the local culinary practices of the people and the culture, so that we show how they're actually using that for culinary means, and that's actually helping them as medicine. And maybe not all of them know that, so we go over that as well.
Amazing. It really brings it back to the land.
Absolutely. I think there's an element, there's a common theme that you have, which is the land for both projects.
And the people.
And the people. The land, the projects, the people, the love, food.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. I just want to ask something. The film brought a lot of awareness. Jack Stones, I didn't know what the title was that, and that's my friend turned pregnant, that I didn't know what that was. And the way you filmed it, not only did you educate the people and make aware of what was going on, but bringing that love and that community and how they had to really rely on this and their livelihood, and yet still be such humble and just strong people. That is overwhelming. So that film brings a lot of awareness. So one of the questions I had about the Jack Stone, which now I think about it, is how did you find out that story? How did that come to light?
So I learned about it in 2016, but the way we found out about it was, I think it was about 2013, 2014, a colleague of mine went to the Philippines to film something completely different. And they wanted to go to the resort town on the weekend, on an off weekend, to Boracay, which is like a beautiful resort. It's famous because Dave Chappelle, the comedian, likes to go there with his family because his wife is Filipino. Anyway, they were going to Boracay, and when they were there, they heard about this project, and they were really interested in it. And so they checked it out. And then when I went in 2016, we went and scuba dived. That's part of the story, I guess I didn't tell. I got trained how to scuba dive just to go check it out, and it was amazing. So that's how I heard about it, just coincidentally through my network of colleagues, and a great resort town that attracted them to it. So it was kind of a fluke.
But it's great because how you brought in, as I said, that awareness, and yet still brought in that community and that love and that strength all together. You felt beautiful.
I'd like to say something about that, if I may. So a huge portion, the massive portion of that is just about the Filipino people and culture. It has a lot to do with that. But there's a trick to what we did with filmmaking that I think brought that up. If you're trying to typically make a documentary, what you're going to do is you're going to interview these people. So maybe you have a person sitting in a chair with like the water behind them, or maybe you stage a few Jack Stones on the beach as a nice shot, and you're just sitting there interviewing them, and it'd be me through a translator. Hey, what was life like before the Jack Stones came? Oh, life was hard, the fish weren't here anymore. And then what happened when the Jack Stones came? Oh, the fish came back, it was wonderful.
What was that, Rick?
That's not how we made this movie. What we did is we taught everybody what we were trying to kind of do. And then we acted almost like therapists. So we'd have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with everybody you saw on camera there. We'd eat at Edna's restaurant every single day. We'd be like, hey, so what are you up to today? You know, what are you doing tomorrow? Are you talking to your uncle? What does your uncle do? Your uncle does that? It's amazing. You know, and why do you go out and talk to your uncle about that? Oh, because he does this. He has a fishing net and stuff, and you can work on the fishing net. Hey, do you mind if we bring our cameras there? And it was just starting to be that. And then we talk to the uncle and we say, hey, we're gonna come. You know, I hope you're not freaked out. We're gonna bring our cameras, but we're gonna be far away. But hey, your nephew wants to ask you about something. So do you mind if we put a mic on you and just be open to listen to whatever your nephew says? And so we did that every single day with every single person we met. And so they ended up conducting the interviews with each other instead of us. And we never knew because we don't speak. It's not even Tagalog, which is the main language of the Philippines. It's Aklani. So like, we really don't know what they're saying. But we're just kind of crossing our fingers, and at the end of the day, somebody tells us kind of what it was saying. And that's how the story was threaded together, and that's how you see the effect that you're describing to me now.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
Thank you.
Hey guys, so it is the last day and it is the end of the festival. How do you guys feel about how the festival went this year?
It went pretty good.
It went pretty good. Yeah, we had challenges for sure, like every year, but we were very happy. The attendance were very good, especially yesterday. No, really, yes, very good. And we also want to thank everybody who came to the festival.
Of course.
Everybody who attended all the films, the Q&A, the industry talks. It was just amazing to see the interest of the people who actually came to the festival to literally hear the speakers. And that's why we really wanted to thank everybody who came to the festival. And we're
thank
happy.
you to...
And thank you to Mira.
Yeah.
Mira. That's it.
You rock.
You rock.
Big time.
You rock big time, yes.
Big time.
you, guys.
And now you're on camera too, and the line there, yeah, you see? Okay, see, she's got a little red like this here.
Exactly. Yeah. No, but
and she's good to chew me in front of the camera, right? And
no, she's in front of the camera.
Yeah, see, it's always different when I'm in front of the camera and I feel what people feel when they're filming
No,
them.
you do.
So what are your plans for next year?
Next year, we
Do you don't know yet? That's and the rest is a secret.
Oh yeah, it's a secret. We cannot say.
Yeah.
But
So,
we are thinking about keeping that community vibe.
Yeah.
Because this is what we wanted to create, and we just heard from someone who just attended the festival that we succeed and created that community vibe, that family vibe, where people just come to the festival to meet new people, even if they're not filmmakers, even if they just love film, they just came and enjoy a passion together. So next year will still be the same. We are thinking about other things, but you just have to follow the website, OWTFF.com, to know more, or the Facebook page, OWTFF, the Twitter, OWTFF, and the Instagram,
OWTFF.
That's it. So this is a free event, and we definitely run it out of passion. It's for people who really love film. Everybody who works with us, they're all volunteers, and what they get through working with us, it's connection. We also have a sister company, as you can tell. My Damascene Production is our sister company, so we do have projects where we hire people. So they get connection through my sister company or through other companies or through all the filmmakers, even the actors, they get connected for other projects. But not only that, one year we had filmmakers from China who connected with volunteers that they met here, and now they're working together. So like I said, they're getting connection and they're getting more. And like I said, it's free to the public because it's all with the passion. So our volunteers who comes and work with us, they get to network. They get to meet industry professionals, even if they're just starting. You know, when you start in this industry, you don't know where to start. You don't know a lot of people, because we all know that you succeed with whoever you know. It's always whoever you know in this industry. So here you can connect with new people. So our volunteers come and work and with our festival, and then they meet new people, and then what they get from it is connection, which we all need. Thank you for attending the festival, and let's get ready for next year. You come come up front so I can give you a hug on camera.
Okay, I have to go on camera.
A little bit to the right, a little bit to the right.
Go, 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 go.